It's 6 p.m. and I've just taken a shower. I put my perfume on, I put my sexy maxi dress on, and I'm walking down the stairs. I walk into a field of love, and they're sitting 2 by 2, candlelit. And as I sit down, I'm being asked, are you here alone? Or should we wait for your partner? So I sit down, and at the corner of my eye, I'm seeing a very sexy chef. So I wink at him. And then I say, dinner for one. Welcome to Colonel Convos with my name. What's your view on going out alone? Have you ever been out for dinner? Have you ever sat down and dined with yourself? Have you ever gone out to a cinema? You know, you just felt there's this one movie that I like and I'm going to go alone and I'm bringing no one with me. Have you ever been on a solocation for 3 days, for a week, like myself? So with my background, my family goes out quite a lot at the end of the year, of every year. And having like people around me, I'm used to having people around me. So doing things on my own is not something I'm quite used to. Actually, I've never done it before, and the only time that I've done that was last year. So I went on a solocation for 4 days. And the reason why I went for a solocation is obviously because of the other 3 episodes, hoping that you've watched them, is because I needed to go through a certain type of change. So I felt, overwhelmed and hurt, and I felt like I need to touch base with my spiritual life. So I took a solocation and I went, and getting there, it felt unreal. I don't know, uncommon, because it's not something that I do. I tag along with people, where they go, I go. Where I go, I want them to come with me. But the basis of that, of me going on a solocation, was one, for healing, and because I needed time away. But that was not the only reason why I did that. There are many other reasons. And one of them, or two, was because I wanted to do something out of the ordinary, something I'm not used to doing. And number 3 was because I just needed time with myself. Outside of healing, outside of getting hurt, I just felt like maybe some bit of change would be good. So I'm an extrovert, and one thing that people don't get to understand is that I have some introvertness, if that is a word, in me. So the reason why I'd want to be alone at some point is because I always have noise around me. So sometimes I want to sit alone and think about I don't like thinking, but humans think. So I think about my actions and what I like and who I am. And that was one of the reasons why I chose to go on a solocation. What is a solocation? A solocation is a vacation with yourself. Solocation. So when you go for vacation, it's 2. Can't believe I'm explaining like this, but when you go on a solocation, it's yourself, one man. So there are different reasons why a person would want to go on a vacation on their own, unless if it's like a business trip and it's just you. But as I mentioned before, that mine was because of 3 reasons. 1, to get over my hurt. 2, to do an uncommon thing, something I'm not used to doing. And 3 was to just be with myself. So I'll give you a routine of it's not normal, but what happened when I was there. So one day, so I got there on I think it was a Wednesday evening, and then went for dinner, as I said, and then, so it was beautiful, man. So I get to my room, it's a nice 2-bedroom, and a lady we called Mariki, it's not her name, but we called Mariki, she said to me, "Boitumelo, are you sure that you're here alone? Are you waiting for someone?" Then I thought maybe she was asking because I paid for a room, but I'm alone, but the payment was the same. It was for 2 people. So I say to her, "No, I'm here alone. So you can take the one gown, take the one towel, and take, the slippers, so that you can believe that I'm actually alone." But anyway, she left them there. So So I got into my gown, I did your foam showers and your foam baths, I listened to some music in the morning, breakfast time. So I had a itinerary, right? So I had a game drive on the one day, and the game drive was to obviously go and watch animals, of which I only saw 2 out of the 5. Those things are very selfish. I didn't see a giraffe. I wanted to see a giraffe. And 2, I had, on another day, I had a picnic alone. So champagne and some fruits. And all of these things that I chose on the menu at the lodge was so I can have some time with myself. So I found that I was, sometimes you try and run away from your problems, right? So you move from one place to the other because you think you're leaving behind your hurt and your pain, and you're moving into something else. If you're not cognizant of it, you're going to go back with those hurts and those pains, because what you were there for is not exactly what you were trying, or you didn't accomplish. So the main reasons I were there that I mentioned before, in addition to them, was my spiritual life. I was trying to connect with God once again, which I thought I had lost. So in all of these things that I had on the itinerary was to do with myself, and so going on a game drive is me connecting with the nature. So I'm like, okay, God created animals and plants and trees. And to me, it felt so good because I was driving around a forest. I was scared, but I had a tour guide there. But it just felt, like when you hear birds and hear, the dam, the water, everything happening, and you're just there, you're in the moment. And at that time I was able to think, okay, so actually life is good. So that's the first thing I told myself, that, okay, you come from somewhere, you come from a situation, but you're alive. Everything is well. And secondly, the picnic, picnics are done in a romantic sense, right? So it's usually with 2 people. So at that moment, I was trying to psych myself up to say, okay, so I should be doing this with someone, but I'm going to do it with myself. Why? Because I am trying to love myself. So that was me. And I think the one thing that I made sure doesn't happen is that things are not brought to me in 2s, because that was going to break me even more. So I was trying to evolve and get into the sense of me doing things on my own and being alone. So I asked them to take away the gown and the slippers, and at the picnic I asked them to not put things in 2, just put 1 glass and put everything just for me. And in that picnic moment I was able to think, okay, so boyfriend less sharp, but you're boyfriending yourself, you're dating yourself, you are loving yourself, you're spending time with yourself. And it's not a selfie moment of, oh, hey, I'm with him or whatever, it's just with yourself. And I think the one thing I appreciated about that Solocation was, yes, I did post, but I told myself that I was not going to post as much as I usually do. And that was also part of not letting the world into your space at a time of healing. So the benefits of being at that Solocation, or rather what I went for, I accomplished. I went back home in January and I was full, I was whole. And not whole in a sense, Yuguti, I had completely healed. No, I knew what it felt like to be in my moment. I knew what it felt like to have dinner on my own and to pass myself a glass and to feed myself. You know how these romanticized things go. So everything that someone was supposed to do for me and to me, I did for myself and to myself. And going home and having to think back to that moment of when I was alone for 4 days just really enriched it gave me a full and a different perspective on love, on self-love, on self-worth, and the fact that healing doesn't happen overnight. So I thought maybe in January I'd wake up and I'm like, okay, I went on a Solocation, I went for therapy, I'm perfect. But it wasn't that. But it was one of the first steps into getting into the groove of now you're alone, now you're doing things on your own, and the benefits of joy and peace and happiness and just finding the time to be with yourself. So a quote I read was, it says, spend time with yourself and often Wow, spend time with yourself and often touch base with your soul. And I think that's exactly what I did in December. And if I were asked to go back again to that moment, I would, because I found myself crying. I found myself reading the Bible, devotion. I found myself listening to music that made me feel better. And I kept on thinking about the reasons why I went to the Solocation. If I were asked, would I do it for a week or more? I would. Would I fly to Spain alone? Hell yes. I'd do it because it feels good. It feels good to know that you're doing something for yourself. I'd mentioned at the beginning that I'm an extrovert, so you wouldn't expect someone like me to enjoy sitting at a table alone or going to a cinema alone. And I think that's the one thing. And funny enough, when you speak to a few introverts, and I passed out a few questions around to my friends, and some of them are introverts, but they find it weird to go and spend time alone, to go to a cinema alone, or to go to the movies alone. So I think what I'd want to know is whether you're an introvert, whether you're an extrovert, whether you faced a situation that wanted you to stay alone, because being at home is probably your best, option to say, I'm at home. I'm going to sit at home. I'm going to watch TV. Why do I have to spend money or, go out of my way to spend time with myself? But change of scenery really matters. And the action of putting things together. So me finding a lodge, sending out an email, calling, planning to say, okay, so today when they ask you, what are you going to do on Monday, on Tuesday, on Wednesday, all of that put together, for me, it meant so much because for once, I wasn't planning a birthday vacation for someone. I wasn't planning something for someone. I took all that time and airtime and data and whatever, everything that it came with. I took all of that and it was all for me. So I didn't see it as important at the time when it happened. But later on, earlier this year, when I looked back, I was like, hey, you actually took care of yourself. And I'm definitely going to do it again. So I want to know, would you go on a solocation? And if you would, where would you go, or why would you go? What would you do at your solocation? I think I'd really like us to normalize self-love, so that we get used to loving ourselves. A facial makes a difference. You don't have to go for 4 days. I mean, if you love traveling, you want to do it, you can do it, but a facial matters. Taking care of your nails, reading, listening to music, whatever it takes for you to get to a point of knowing how important you are and knowing your self-worth, then babes, go for it. And you don't have to be a woman to take care of yourself. You can travel and go on a solocation as a male. Most of the times we touch on things for females, but it's not really just that. Everyone needs to take time to love themselves. And I did just that, and I'm hoping to carry on with the journey even when I find someone in the future. So yeah, thank you for watching.